afternoon, morning, whenever you're listening to this. I'm Roger Gray. Welcome to another edition of Another Fine Mess. I'm here along with my colleague, Mike Vance. Mike, how are you?
Good morning, good night, and good luck.
And good luck, indeed. Welcome. Good to have you here. I have to tell you, right before we started, I happened to glance at Mediaite, which is a news aggregator that I read every day, and it looks at basically stories that have been on the tube. Apparently, Stephen Miller, the most evil man in the administration,
Yes.
winner of the Goebbels lookalike contest,
Yes.
Pee Wee German. Anyway, his wife has a podcast. I don't know if you knew that. Maddie, I think is her name. Anyway, on her podcast, she had a golfer named Bryson DeChambeau. Are
Yes.
you familiar?
Yeah, I'm very familiar and do not like
Okay.
the guy.
Okay. Well, okay. She asked him kind of a goofy question for a golfer, given all that's going on. She said, would you rather win a Masters or play golf on the moon, as astronauts did? And then she made the mistake of asking, do you think we did that? Well, we know Alan Shepard did that in 1971 on Apollo 14. But his answer, and I have to lean in to read it because I'm old. Oh, I don't know. Look, Elon says we definitely have gone there, so I tend to go that route because he's the man that knows quite a bit about all that. Artemis just went around the moon, so I do believe if we spent a lot of our resources like they say we did, then I think we did. At that point, Mike, I'm ready to just sort of wrap it up for humanity. We're done. You know?
Well, if it helps, he's an idiot as a golfer. And thankfully,
Well, he's not limited to golf,
yeah,
apparently.
well, thankfully he has not been, knock on wood, because I wish him continued lack of success. He has not been doing well in tournaments of late. And, we could go on with this. The guy 3D printed, he tends to make his own golf clubs, and
Okay.
he's one of those very long hitters who nobody has ever accused of playing a smart game. So,
Well, don't explain gravity to him because then he'll perhaps understand why his shots ultimately go down.
well, and he's pro.
Anyway.
So, back to things that matter.
Okay.
Back to things that matter.
All righty. Into things that matter. For example, one of the happiest campers in this state right now is James Tallarico because the president endorsed Paxton,
Yes.
Attorney General Paxton yesterday. Yesterday as we tape this. Your thoughts?
Well, it doesn't surprise me, first of all. And initially I was like, well, I'm kind of surprised he didn't do this earlier. But then I thought he needs Cornyn to suck up as much as possible because Cornyn is the guy in the Senate with a vote right now. So he accomplished that. Cornyn has managed to shed every last molecule of dignity and decency that he ever had that has long since floated away. I mean,
And by the way, if I could just say, I mentioned last week, I actually kind of like John Cornyn. I've talked with him a few times over the years. Seems like a decent man. He's not, crazy. He's not loons on either end of the spectrum have no appeal for me. He is not one of those. At least he wasn't before Trump. But yeah, he's been pandering, relentlessly.
look, I got no respect
So-
for suck ups. I mean, he's a suck up.
Yeah.
He's a coward. He has gone against everything that he built a career on to try to get that endorsement, and it didn't come in for him. We should take a few minutes and, geez, by a few, in this case, 2 hours, to list all of the scandals that Ken Paxton has been involved in.
He's often referred to as ethically challenged, but that's understates the case.
I wrote some down, and if I had thought about it, I would have had for a prop some giant long piece of paper that I unfurled that looks like a CVS receipt, that comes out.
Fanfold,
So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, exactly. But two counts of securities fraud that he got charged with in 2015 that he managed to postpone the trial until 2024 when he got a settlement, had to pay an enormous six-figure fine. So basically, yes, I did this, but it's not going on his record as a felony. Failed to disclose investments while he was a Texas House member, 2008. 2013, this is my personal favorite, stole a $1,000 Mont Blanc pen from the metal detector tray at a courthouse
I saw
that
that.
belonged to
I
another
remember that
belonged
video.
to
Yeah.
another lawyer. Yeah, so he's going through. People drop their stuff in the trays, go through the metal detector. Paxton deliberately steals a $1,000 pen and walks off. The other lawyer says, this was a gift. He goes back and he gets the sheriff's department to run the video, the surveillance video. They find Paxton doing this. Paxton brings it back, drops it off, doesn't apologize. End of story. I mean, he's slimy.
I've forgotten the pen.
Sued successfully. Oh, yeah. Sued for, successfully, by the way, for firing whistleblowers from his office. I mean, there's just one thing after another. He was involved in the contested election results. He's accused of the biggest one is abuse of office and bribery involving a buddy of his named Nate Paul, who apparently he and Ken had a secret account that they were using to order Ubers so Paxton could go visit his mistress. Nate Paul hired Paxton's mistress. This all led to a divorce on, quote, biblical grounds, because Paxton,
Yeah.
of course, is, this holds himself up as a wonderful, shining example of Christianity.
Well, the woman involved is Laura Olson, who is she's kind of a Republican gadfly. She dated a councilman from San Antonio and so forth, and then she decided to move up to AG. She's an attractive woman, and he now has apparently a second paramour, according to the British press, named Tracy Duhan. She was the wife of a rich car dealer guy out of Louisiana, and it's that made up profession. She is a Christian influencer.
Yeah.
Also has 7 kids. She's also very attractive. So, looking at Ken, I'm not getting it. Unless there's just something about Ken
Well,
we just don't know.
the guy is as absolutely sleazy as they come, and if they were going to cast him in a movie, I don't know, what do you think? Harvey Keitel? James Spader?
Yeah.
And I'm talking about James Spader now,
He's
not young James Spader.
Yeah, not young James Spader. Yeah. Ken is. Suffice to say, he is not an attractive man. That's why I say there must be hidden virtues there somewhere. But
Power.
this
The virtue is
is
power.
generally, yeah. But he's on the verge of losing that one way or another, perhaps. Anyway, Ken. The general feeling is, as you well know, that if Ken gets Trump's endorsement, it really turns this election that's going to happen in about a week in his favor over Cornyn, the runoff election against Cornyn. And that is, in the eyes of most observers, good news for Tallarico, the Democratic nominee. My only problem with Tallarico is he looks like he's running for student council president rather than the United States Senate, to be honest. He'll
Well,
be very happy he looks that young someday.
most
Go
voters are
ahead. I'm
not
sorry.
our age, although primary voters primary voters are, and that really that's the problem. And first of all, just let me say, it's still not a done deal. Cornyn, the
Oh, I know.
previous poll, the one before this endorsement, was a couple of points apart, and there may be people that this pushes them toward Cornyn. The weird timing about this, of course, is that early voting already started, and 500,000 people have already voted in that primary.
Yeah.
But that notwithstanding, I said the same thing about Trump in 2016. Oh, good, nominate him because there's no way in hell that he could win. And I was wrong. The the fact that
That's
they
what
are
Lindsey Graham
nominating these
thought too, by
people,
the way, back then.
yeah, the fact that they're nominating people like Paxton and many of these other absolutely disgusting excuses for human beings talks about how bad the primary system is because you get only the hardcore people that go and vote. I'll admit, when ranked voting first came out, I'm like, this is really weird, and I was certainly not in favor of it. But it does seem to push people toward the middle, toward reasonable
We might
candidates like
explain what
somebody you
that
can live
is.
with. Go ahead.
Right. We might explain what that is. No, it's. Well, go ahead and explain it because obviously you're thinking about it.
Yeah, well, Alaska, for one, has it, and there's several other places that are doing this. And you go in and literally that there may be four candidates on the ballot, and you rank them, and so it's kind of
Yeah.
an
Listen to
aggregate
ABC. Yeah.
vote. Yeah.
Okay.
So you have to pick somebody. If your guy doesn't win or your woman doesn't win, you have to pick your next choice, and it's somebody you can live with. So it tends to get rid of the more radical candidates on both ends. And I'm starting to come around to that.
Well, and a couple of things may come out of this. Obviously, if you're a Democrat, you're thinking, oh, this could be good for Tallarico. And if indeed Cornyn loses the runoff, he has more time in office, up until election and/or swearing in next year. So Cornyn has nothing left to lose. He can go back to being
Well,
a standard issue traditional Republican if he chooses.
Bill Cassidy lost his primary in Louisiana, and
Yep.
he has certainly stepped out firing with both barrels, metaphorically, and
Yep.
just talked about this is a cult. You can't put the nation underneath one person. And I mean, he has really opened up on it because Hirochito really campaigned hard to make sure Bill Cassidy did not win. And thank you, by the way, for introducing me to that nickname.
Hirochito.
Although Mango Mussolini is hard to beat.
I
But and
understand.
then there's Thomas Massey in
Right.
Kentucky, who again was targeted because he has been a critic, and he lost. Massey is, I think, more likely than all of them to, not that he's been pulling many punches to begin with, but he's more likely than all of them to go on a retribution tour for the remainder of his term.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Boebert is she showed a little bit of independence, and now she's trying her best to sidle her way back into the fold. So we shall see. Moving on, moving on. Let's talk about the slush fund a little bit. And by the way, you mentioned Cassidy. I he is obviously a smart guy. He's a doctor, more to the point, and I will never forgive him for being one of the deciding votes to get RFK into that job. I mean, RFK is
Oh,
going to kill people. I'm sorry, but he is. He will.
Yeah. Well, he already has been killing people, most likely. I mean, I have nothing quantifiable to back that up, but the fact that we have a measles outbreak for the first time in multiple states for the first time in decades, he's killing people already. let me just mention Cassidy was one of 7 Republican senators that voted to convict in the second
Right.
impeachment trial. 4 of them
The one
chose
about
not to
trying
run
to
again.
overthrow the government.
Yeah, yeah. So 4 of them chose not to run again.
Which is the only
and-
which is the only time they show any courage, quite frankly. So when
yeah,
you're either defeated or you retire.
yeah. I mean, you need to stand there and fight and tell it like it is. But 4 of them, they're like, yeah, okay, we didn't win this vote, so I'm quitting. A couple of those spoke out. Tom Tillis, like a word or two. Murkowski won, I guess, in 22 or something, so she's not up for a while. Susan Collins is the one that still has to face election, and Cassidy lost because he was targeted. So,
Well, Susan
there is
Collins
still,
will
and
say
it
something
goes back to,
wishy-washy.
yeah, well, it goes back to the fact that only the hardcore lunatics are voting in these primaries. In states like Louisiana and Kentucky,
Yeah,
and, and Texas.
Louisiana has one. Outside of Texas, they have one of the worst governors in the country in Jeff Landry. But that's a show for another day. Let's talk about the slush fund, for goodness sakes.
Yes.
Donald Trump, his tax returns were revealed. Of course, every president since Nixon has voluntarily provided their taxes for the public to see. This is what I earned. This is what I paid. Trump chose not to do that, and they were leaked by an employee of the IRS. That employee, by the way, was taken to court and is, I believe, still in jail.
I thought it was a private contractor. Was it an actual employee?
Well, that I would have to check. But he certainly had access to the IRS information, and he leaked it
And
to
leaked other
to
things
the press.
besides that, I might add. But yes. So
But he went to jail. He went to jail for that. And Trump decided, well, I'm going to sue you on top of that for 10 billion American Yankee dollars.
Yep.
And a settlement has been reached that provides him. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
The big thing, though, is that he wanted, and this seems to get buried all the time, and it's coming out now, but the big thing that he was asking for was to never be audited, ever. Him, his businesses,
got it.
his family. But here's the question. And the judge was about to dismiss this. So they come up with this last minute settlement. It was going to be dismissed on the grounds that he was negotiating with himself. He controls the branch of government that he's suing, so he's negotiating with himself. So that's no different under the settlement. Hours before we started to record here today, 2 Capitol police officers that were injured in January 6th in that assault, that criminal assault, to stop the certification of the vote. 2 of those injured officers sued to stop this slush fund and stop that settlement. So, based on the grounds that the people that were convicted of maiming them, hurting them, attacking them,
Yeah.
should not be rewarded with government money.
Well, and it is generally assumed that a lot of the people who are going, the slush fund is for victims of government overreach, legal persecution, which is it's like influencer. It's a new made-up term. At any rate, Trump considers himself that. He considers people like Giuliani and others that. He has wanted to sue his former prosecutors, investigators. They fired FBI agents who were involved in checking into the various things that Jack Smith was looking at. So the revenge tour, from Trump's point of view, has continued, and now he has a way to reward people who actually dis- created destruction at the Capitol, threatened lives, actually hurt people, in some cases leading
Killed
to
somebody.
death. Yeah, yeah, and yeah, the woman who was shot, and I'm blanking on her name right now. I'm sure her family would be in line for this settlement, and that's what it's going to be used for. And in addition, as you mentioned, he got what he wanted. His family is indemnified against any future tax audits.
Well,
It's a
I
get
will
out of
say
jail.
that,
Well, not in jail, but it's a free card. Yeah,
yeah, it's bigger than a get out of jail free card. It's a get away with anything you ever want to do card. But we will see if this sticks because there are going to be lawsuits, a lot of them. There will be congressional action on this. And I'll say the same thing that I said when he took office on my podcast that I've kind of put on hiatus, Prick the Balloon.
your history podcast. Yes.
I did a yeah, I did a special episode about kind of trying to talk the Democrats down when he took office,
Talk them off the
however,
ledge.
18 months
Yeah.
ago. Yeah. So I said, there are going to be lawsuits. There is going to be this flurry of noise and as much loud, ridiculous action as he can put out there to cover his corruption. But these lawsuits have pushed back on a lot of the things that he's been doing. And
Yeah.
we'll see if this happens or not. He will not always be in office. And the cowards who support
No.
him will not always be in power. So there will be real retribution on a legal front to roll back some of this stuff, just like all the laws that passed after Watergate to stop exactly this kind of corruption that the Reagan administration started rolling back, and it's been continually rolled back ever since. So they'll do it again.
Well, and it's exactly. Well, we'll see. We'll see. One can only hope because this whole idea of a private slush fund. And by the way, when he leaves office, there's no guarantee it's going to be used for the purposes he claims, just like the jet that he was given, and on and on. I think my next piece that I'm going to write is about a full accounting of how the family has enriched itself. I mean, so much was made of Hunter getting a $5,000 loan to buy a truck from his dad.
Yeah.
That 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 seems almost, well, obviously laughable in comparison. Hunter's not a nice guy, but yeah, there have been lots of them. If you think back to family scandals in the old days, Billy Beer or Neil Bush and Silverado Savings and Loan and so forth, they pale compared to some of this. The double dealing and the self
Compared to all of it.
enrichment is yeah.
Compared to all of this, I mean, you'd have to go all the way back to Harding and his cabinet and Albert Fall and the Teapot Dome scandal. And even
Yeah.
that does not reach the level of pure theft and corruption going on in this White House. Not even close.
And
So
please
if the
forgive me,
Democrats have a
my
plan-
allergies are killing me.
Oh, no
Yeah.
problem. And even
Yeah.
if it's contagious, I'm miles away from you. So the, uh, the Democrats, if they have a brain, how they'll run the campaign, will be to just replay over and over him going, I don't care or even think about average Americans and how they can pay for things, and then pile on the corruption angle. I mean, the guy, everything that he is doing right now seems, and I said this last week, like we've got to get this in now because they're going to go after me. So I got to steal as much as I possibly can before the next Congress is seated.
Yeah, this is just it is astonishing, and I'm sure as always, Mike Johnson will say, well, "I haven't read anything about that, so I can't comment." That is his standard reply to everything,
Well, he Mike
and
Johnson,
that gives the House an excuse, huh?
yeah, Mike Johnson the other day said that he wants to keep stock trading open to all of Congress, and we can talk about Trump's stocks some other time,
Yeah,
because he had the longest list by far. Everybody else puts their stocks and portfolios in a blind trust. He didn't, and he's dealing with Boeing and he's dealing with all these different companies, Netflix, that
yeah.
he's regulating at the same time. So it's insider trading. Johnson the other day said, "We got to do that, or we can't feed our families." So they get $174,000 in salary. They get a
I
$2 million expense budget. They get free health care, free parking, free food in the cafeteria.
and a great and a great pension.
Yes. So, but we've got to do
Yeah,
insider trading, or we can't feed our families. That's your Republican
I can
line,
make
ladies
ends
and
meet.
gentlemen.
Yeah, I can
So,
make ends meet on 174. Let's move on. I know you want to talk about some of the doings at the Department of Housing and Urban Development.
yes, HUD, which, by the way, I will go to my grave arguing was a better Texas movie than Last Picture Show.
Oh, I agree completely.
So, um, just
They shot it
across
in a
the
part
board.
of the state where I used to live, up in near the Panhandle. Yeah,
Oh, did they? I mean,
yeah,
famously,
yeah.
Last Picture Show, they shot, Larry McMurtry's hometown and
Right.
all of this.
Yeah,
But Bogdanovich, the cinematography on Last Picture Show is great, but HUD is
yeah.
just a vastly superior movie. Anyway, so that's not the HUD I wanted to
Contains
talk about. Go
contains
ahead.
two of my favorite lines, Texas lines. One is, "The only helping hand you get in this life is when they lower the box." And you start separating saints from sinners, you're lucky to end up with Abraham Lincoln. Two
It's a great
great
movie.
movie lines, I think.
An
Yeah,
Oscar for both Best Supporting Actor and Actress, I believe. Melvin Douglas and Patricia
yeah.
O'Neill. Yeah.
Trisha Neal. Yeah.
So,
Anyway,
so
so moving on. HUD, the other
the
HUD.
other HUD, Housing and Urban Development, which goes back, I mean, let me just give a little credit. LBJ is the one that best president, certainly of the 20th century. I would argue the second best president we ever had in this country. I will argue the most liberal president we ever had in this country. But Nixon is the one that actually got the Fair Housing Act passed. And a lot of things happened under Nixon following LBJ that relate to where I'm going here with housing and urban development. The guy that's the secretary now is Scott Turner, who used to be I guess, House member here in Texas and former football player. So they have tried to tie this sanctuary cities thing. In other words, cities that won't immediately
Right.
arrest everybody
Cooperate
who
with,
has brown
yeah.
skin. They're trying to tie that to getting money for housing. So they have slow walked. They finally, at one point, were going to cut off all of those cities from getting any money for housing veterans, homeless, or seniors. So if you happen to live in an area we don't like, we are going to take away housing for your veterans, homeless, and seniors. I mean, think about that for a second. And finally, courts told them you can't do that. So they have since then slow walked getting that money out. And in many cases, the money still has not arrived. So there are shelters closing as we speak because they are not getting the federal money. Native Indian housing also was something that they were cutting because that is not a
Oh, good.
Republican voting bloc. HUD cut their staff, by the way, by 25%. the people that
Of
have
course.
to actually process these payments, which is,
Yeah.
top of the Republican playbook. It's what they did at the IRS during the first term is, we'll just cut the staff. So that's something
Yeah.
that's kind of going under the radar. And like many things, it's something that we should all be pissed off about and up in arms about. I mean, that's as low as anything else I can name.
Well, I'm sorry. There are people who now cannot afford health care. There are people, and I wrote about this. They've been after Obamacare since it was passed. Obamacare was originally a Republican idea. It was a product of the Heritage Foundation, which now gave us Project 2025, which that's the playbook, as you mentioned, they're following now. Then Mitt Romney introduced it in Massachusetts. So there's nothing new about it, but you slap another name on it. If Obama did it, it can't be good. And so people are going without health care because they took away the subsidies. There are people not qualifying for food stamps now, or WIC, or whatever we're calling it, SNAP, excuse me, and on and on. I mean, this is when people say, "Well, that's what I voted for." Did you really vote for that? Is that what you wanted? Did you want this kind of economy? Our bond yields are hitting record highs right now. The bond yield, the way we borrow money, and we have to borrow money because we've been deficit spending for years, ever since Clinton. And the bond yields are now over 5%. What that means is if we want somebody to buy our bonds, to buy U.S. savings bonds, let's say, we're going to have to pay them more. They're looking at our economy, they're looking at our debt, they're looking at our inflation right now and saying, you want me to buy this bond, it's going to have to give me back more. So it's over 5, it's probably going to be 6 before we're done here. That's a lot of money, and that's money out of the Treasury. That's U.S. tax money these bonds have to be paid back. That's why people buy them.
Yeah.
And we're deficit spending. We now spend as much as this country makes in GDP. Our debt now equals GDP. If you had debts in your home that were equal to what you make, you set your hair on fire. I mean, that's where we are, and that's what this crowd has brought us. I visited Nacogdoches yesterday, and I saw gas for $3.89. I pulled in immediately because in this little town where I live, it's $4.19 for crying out loud, and it's going to go up.
I paid $4.29. I had to go to Belleville the other day and paid $4.29. Cost me $50 to fill up my 10-gallon ish tank. So,
Oh yeah, well,
but
we
but
got a sedan that took. I had half a tank. I filled, the other half, $38. Yeah.
let me stop you for a second because I'm sorry. I really tire of the comparing the U.S. government to your household debt kind of thing because it's not. Some deficit spending in the government is a healthy thing. The level we are at now is not remotely healthy. The level we are at now.
That's all, Mike. That is all I'm saying here.
Yeah.
Because when your debt equals your GDP, that's a red flag
Yes,
for any country.
absolutely. And that has not happened since the middle of World War II when we were trying to finance the largest war in human history. So, and part of the problem is that we are and have been spending enormous amounts of money on weaponry that we do not need. See the thing we've talked about every single week so far on this program, $4 million missile versus $35,000 drone. But they
Right.
keep doing this so the lobbyists that are working for, pick one, Lockheed, Raytheon, whoever your defense contractor of choice is, Boeing, so those people can keep enriching themselves. And in many cases, the military says we don't even need that system. So they keep bumping the defense budget up and up and up. They keep it's not waste on programs like Medicare or Medicaid or science
Or SNAP.
research.
Yeah.
It's not that. It's the defense budget is exponentially larger than any other country on the planet. It's bribery.
And if
Bribery
it-
is the root. The root of all our problems is the legalized bribery that we call campaign finance.
Well, and it didn't always, it wasn't always that way. Whatever his faults, Caspar Weinberger cut programs. He cut equipment programs that he thought just didn't make sense. Jimmy Carter, there's a very good book called Wild Blue Yonder. It came out years ago. A New York Times reporter wrote it. And I interviewed him about it. And the B-1 bomber was canceled by Jimmy Carter because Carter knew, he was the president, and he was privy to this stuff, that cruise missiles, all the cruise missile technology was on the way. So the idea of flying a bomber over the bad guy's capital and dropping a big dumb bomb were going away, quite frankly. All you had to do is fly up to the border, launch your cruise missiles, and fly home. You can launch them from a 747, from a C-130. It was unneeded. Reagan brought it back, and they did it by parceling out, oh, you're going to make the tail section in Idaho, and the landing gear are going to be made in California. They parted the bomber out and spread the contracts. And that's the only reason we have B-1 bombers. It's a beautiful airplane, but it just wasn't needed. If you need dumb bombs, the B-52 is for that. Forgive me for getting into the weeds a bit on the aircraft, but it's just now, if it's new, if it's shiny, if it's the latest, we have to have it.
Well, Carter was a military guy. I mean,
Yeah, went to Annapolis.
yeah, Naval Academy grad. The real George Bush, also military guy, although not a service academy graduate. But,
No.
in between them, you had Reagan, who knew nothing about any of this kind of stuff. And
Right.
the people that came to him, his handlers, his puppet masters, were saying exactly that. Well, we can get all these different constituencies to get money, and we make the defense contractors happy, and they're giving us money to run our campaigns. Sounds good. Let's do it.
Well, when I mentioned Caspar Weinberger, when I talked to Caspar Weinberger years ago, I asked him what he thought about his nickname Cap the Knife. He said, I welcome it. He said, because you can't spend money, A, you don't have, and B, you don't need to. So,
Yep.
and he's as Republican as they come.
Yeah. And we should
So-
say, by the way, and even I will say this, and I know you've probably voted for more Republicans than I have. There was
Yes.
but I have. There was a county judge that I particularly liked when I lived in Houston that was doing a fine job, who was a Republican that I voted for every time he ran. So, I will happily vote for the best person for the job.
Was that Lindsay?
No, that was Ed Emmett.
Oh, okay.
I was not old enough to vote for John Lindsay. Thanks for asking, but
Okay.
nonetheless,
Well, I am older. I forgot. I try to forget.
I did vote once in a Republican primary, Roger, because even as a child, I knew that I could not stand Ronald Reagan. And so when John Connally ran in the primary against Reagan for president, I crossed over and voted for Connally, and we all saw how well that worked out for me.
Yeah, but Mike, let's. Times are different. I just wrote a piece about that. The parties were different. We've entered a whole new age as far as the parties. I don't know why Democrats don't listen to guys like Carville as much as they should. I don't know why Republicans aren't listening to the saner voices there. We've gone off this mega cliff. Look, we saw it in China. For all the talk about what a tough guy Trump is, he got nothing out of China. Nothing. Z should have showed him where they build his phones. The Trump phones are finally out, and they're made in China. With the American flag is wrong on the back, by the way. Not enough stripes. So, I mean, Putin's over there right now, as a matter of fact, as we record this. Putin's visiting China,
Well,
getting the same kind of welcome. Although the marching band did not play YMCA for Putin, the military band played YMCA for Trump.
it's too
So
bad because Putin probably would have
that's
pulled off his shirt and like flexed and everything.
I know.
I mean,
I know.
I'm not saying that Trump totally got his ass handed to him in China, but judging by the pictures, they pantsed him and took his wig. So,
So
yeah, I mean,
I know.
he went there. Americans going to China with hat in hand. I mean, it was an embarrassment. And I don't want to agree with
and
Ted
to wrap
Cruz,
this,
by the way. Just let me clarify. Just because Teddy's saying the same thing.
well, and look, Mike, let me just wrap this up by I was in journalism for my whole life. I have always tried to be fair, and as you mentioned, I voted for Republicans before. If the Democrats I supported hadn't lost, they're Republicans that I would have been fine with. I think we've mentioned before, John McCain. I have no real problem there. Mitt Romney seemed like a reasonable guy. Still does, I guess. So this is tough. It's tough to be even-handed when you're dealing with something that is so blatant
Well,
and blatantly wrong.
there is not always a reasonable second side to a
Another.
story. Sometimes
Exactly.
there is only one side of reason and one side of lunacy. And the Republican Party, Project, I mean, all of the Heritage Society, the tech people out in Silicon Valley are
Oh, yeah.
they are trying to eliminate democracy, basically. That is what they are shooting for. There are J.D. Vance is a disciple of that, by the way, not his real name, but he is a disciple of that, as are many people in this current White House, and they think that the tech elite should be the people making all of the decisions. They want to do away with the democratic norms. They want to do away with support systems in our society. They are trying to dismantle government as we have known it throughout our entire history. So there is no right among that crowd. And they don't need to be
Yeah.
treated fairly because what they are asking for is the dismantling of our nation.
Okay, we'll have to wrap it up there. And by the way, speaking of the tech, go ahead.
I-
Oh yes, our history fact.
Yes. Go ahead. You had something about the tech thing, though.
Oh no, I was just going to say I know AI is supposed to be our future. I was watching a video just this morning about old actors and actresses. The AI generated voice referred to Zaza Gaber and and Gene Tyranny, Tyrannny, and it's spelled it that way on the screen. So we have a ways to go there.
Good.
But you have
So,
a weird
speaking
history
of
fact today.
weird history fact of the week. Speaking of Republicans, there's been such an outcry about this ballroom, as well there should have been. However, I did want to mention, only because a couple of people were thinking they were being funny, were going on about, well, I think that they should build a bowling alley instead. Aha! We already have two White House bowling alleys. Truman built one in the executive office building, but then Nixon, more to the point,
Yep.
built one. Oddly enough, in his last full year in office, he didn't do it during the first term. He waited until 73. It's underneath the driveway. So they actually tunneled, and the bowling alley, one lane, Truman had built 2 lanes in the executive office building. Nixon has an underground 1-lane bowling alley that still exists that we already own, kind of like the Mellon Auditorium that you talked about in the ballroom situation. So we don't
Yes.
need another
Yeah.
White House bowling alley. But here is your bit of trivia. Did you know
Okay.
that Richard Nixon has the highest recorded presidential bowling score on record? 232,
Wow.
which is a pretty good game.
Is it really? Forgive me.
Well, 300 is a
I mean,
perfect game, so.
See, I would not have known that. I would only go bowling if there was a girl I was dating who wanted to go bowling. Yeah, so
Well,
I really don't
that's
know
a
the
very
game.
valid reason.
And I love Lebowski, but I don't know the game. So,
So there's your
Anyway,
there's your
Michael.
history fact for the day, Roger.
thank you. Highest bowling score among presidents, Richard Milhouse Nixon.
Yes.
Mike Vance, thanks, sir, as always. And thank all of you guys. We appreciate you being with us. Hope you'll join us again next time
Spread the word.
for another case.
Spread the word.
Yeah,
Tell
indeed.
people.
Hit subscribe and share and all that stuff for another edition of Another Fine Mess.